Thanks, Katie. I appreciate you passing the ball over to me. Listen, everybody. The purpose of this next call discussion point is really to talk a little bit more about what makes Salesforce unique and different. And I think where I want to start is I kind of want to start with a little bit of a story. And for those of you who've been in sales for a long time, might remember this. What is this? It's an index card. This is actually how we used to manage our contacts as salespeople. In fact, I remember when I first started, one of the guys I worked with actually had a very big stack of these things. So anyway. The point being is that was sort of where we started. And then if you think about where it went from there, we had a series of applications that got installed on a PC. You lugged around this 80-pound PC and you had to keep the updates going, etc. So at the time, Mark Benioff was with Oracle and he said, geez, there's got to be a better way to do this. I really don't want to manage and deal with all this software and have to install it, etc. So really what Mark was sort of starting with, and I'll just sort of, if you think in context to traditional IT systems in most organizations, you have a fair amount of infrastructure that supports a series of applications, and you got a bunch of people in the middle that actually manage those operations, right? What Mark, in some respects, was really thinking like, how do I get out of this paradigm? How is it that I can go ahead and be much more responsive to the business with applications? Because right now I spend 80% of my time keeping the lights on, right? And 20% of my time, building apps or innovating. So what Mark really looked at doing is really flipping this paradigm upside down, where you have apps here, and you've got ops here, and in the infrastructure here. But the whole concept was, this is our opportunity to basically spend 80% of our time on innovation, yet 20% of our time keeping the lights on. So that's really was the starting point of Salesforce and this whole technology change and what he was looking to do. So let me just pause there and see what questions you might have. Katie, anything to add? Okay. So what Mark came up with was this notion of, I'm going to start with, change colors. The index card really was, I used ACT back in the day, really was CRM. So this basically became sort of the first pillar that Salesforce had as a functional capability. And the idea behind this was that I was going to make it super easy for people to be able to access my environment. And I wanted to make it intuitive and simple, very similar to, in this example, he used Amazon. It was very easy to buy things, so that's exactly was the first. You look back at Salesforce, and sort of the first releases looked very much like Amazon. So that was sort of the starting point of how everything got started. Then what happened was, people started to say, well, look, my sales process is a little bit different than yours, and how I label things are a little bit different. Some organizations have, like in the case of members in the concepts of credit unions versus customers. So there had to be some level of configuration that they wanted to put into place. And then what also started happening is this whole thing of CRM started to evolve too, right? Because I wanted to sell to people, I also wanted to service to them. So really, Mark, a few years in, scratched his head and he said, hey, Parker, really what I need is I need a platform. And what I want that platform to be able to do is, I still want this single code base, but I want to be in a position where our customers and we can build and go to market faster with applications. So this is really the Salesforce platform. And the idea is that this is a single code base that everyone has the same version of the code. So one of the biggest advantages of this sort of approach is that when an organization, for instance, let's assume Fidelity as an example, if Fidelity looks at the security model, right, any enhancements or changes they're talking about making, that actually goes down and supports us. The same thing holds true with operational reviews, penetration testing, which is the basically trying to hack into the system of Salesforce, etc. So the idea is really what we're building and what we continue to push is a secure, trusted environment, right? So we've built this whole framework. So now what we're able to do is we continue to deliver services, right? across these various areas, right? So we have services. So now I'm servicing my customer, and I can do it in a more consistent way. And then I have the ability for customers to access that through a portal. I have a customer wants I want to be able to market to that person. So I'm starting to get one view because this is where all my customers live, and all my customer data lives here. And then what's even more important is I can start to expose this data in a mobile device. So now I've given the ability for our customers to be able to do what? Most importantly, be able to respond to the business needs. We talked about this being sort of the catalyst. So this is some of the unique characteristics. And as I said, like I said, in the security and the operations side, a lot of our customers do this. So, we do over 120 of these types of penetration tests a year. So there's a lot that happens, and the beneficiary of that is all of our customers when we make these particular changes. So this format that we came up with, which is unique, right? What that also allows us to do is 3 releases per year, so we have the ability to deliver 3 releases. And it also gives us a highly secure and scalable environment. So that you can ensure that as your business grows and as your needs grow, you have the ability to move with us. And in addition to that, what we were able to do when we went through this process of the platform, we said, hey, I'm Mutual of America, I have my own apps that I want to be able to build. I want to be able to build my own apps so that, like for instance, we have something that is called, you may have an onboarding app for your customers that you want to be able to do, right? And you don't want to build that in some other external technology because it's all here, so you have the ability to build your own apps. Now, you might be asking me at this point or thinking through, it's like, that's really cool, I like the idea, I like the concept. The problem is, I've got this stuff over here, where I got data that exists, I got a legacy system here, I have another system over here, and this list goes on, as you know. So what's interesting about Salesforce, when we actually architected this technology from the beginning, we built it in such a way that made it really, really easy for you to exchange information between these various systems in Salesforce. In addition to that, what we've done recently is we've allowed the ability for information to be resident, for instance, in my data area here, but yet show in Salesforce here, where it's just the data shows. So for instance, let's assume it was policy number, or let's assume it was my account balance. My account balance is something I'm going to leave here, but I can actually display it here. So it became a pretty big shift in what we have the ability to deliver from a functional perspective, and it gives our customers a lot more flexibility. Let me pause there. Any questions? Okay. So what also comes with this sort of Salesforce platform? We've come to the conclusion we do one code base, highly secure, and it makes it easy for you to adapt to business changes. What else is sort of in there that is unique? The other thing that's one of the harder things to do in most technologies is how do I control what person has access to what information? And that's something that Salesforce does extremely well, is our ability to manage roles and permissions. So that what it does is it allows us to control who sees what. So as an example, I'm an RVP. I have a team that I run. I can see different information than they can, number one. Number two is I have a team member which can't see my other team member, just like I can't see, for instance, European data in our system. So that's one key component. The next piece, which I think is really important to you guys, and I know that this is one thing that we brought up, is this aspect of workflow. So remember I talked a little bit about onboarding at the beginning? So traditionally, the way that some legacy systems or the way that people have done this in the past is like, I might be a customer, I might either come in and fill out a web form that maybe gets emailed around, or maybe it's literally just an email, or maybe it's a scan of a document. But the idea behind Salesforce and built into our platform is the ability for us to actually manage workflow. So that's a really powerful capability. So as an example, we have built into this workflow capability, we have something called a deal support request. So that's a sort of a series of workflows that I have a deal support request, for instance, for security. So if you came to us tomorrow and said, hey, I really want to do a data center visit, I had other questions. I have things for legal. If you said, hey, we need to negotiate an MSA or a new legal term, I actually have that. And what's interesting, I fill out the form, save the form, and it goes to the set routing along the way. So those are some of the capabilities that are built in. Let me just pause there and see what questions you have. Okay, let me go to the next one. Now we've talked about having all this information and data in Salesforce. Now what becomes really powerful, and I think this is actually one of the best features of Salesforce, as a consumer of Salesforce for the last 10 years, how do I actually, I've got all this information, I'm keeping track of what I'm doing. How do I know, for instance, when the last time is I had a conversation with somebody, or when's the last time we talked about a specific product to a customer? I have the ability as a business user to basically get that information out of Salesforce. So that becomes really powerful for me as an end consumer. What we've done too is we've added the ability to do analytics as part of this. So I can take this report data and actually export it and actually have the ability to visualize this in a different way. So the nice part about this is I have the ability to take that sort of information and then dynamic be able to look at this in a different way. So this is just another way to look at data, but it's highly visual, which sometimes it makes it easier for other people to sort of consume. Let me pause there and see what questions you have. Okay, let me move on. So now we're at a spot right now where if you've been hearing a lot specifically about artificial intelligence in the marketplace, Watson has been talked about a whole bunch. What is this thing? Well, in Salesforce, we really have a portfolio of capabilities that we call Einstein. And there's a lot that goes in there. We made a bunch of acquisitions to get this technology in there. That's my version of our Einstein cloud thing. I know it's kind of funny, thanks. But the purpose of what we're trying to do with that functional capability is deliver an outcome. So for instance, the first one that we use that I think is probably one of the best use cases to start with is this aspect of lead scoring, right? And if you take a look at, there's a study that was done by US Bank, they actually deployed this and they were at Dream Stage Dreamforce last year. They went through lead scoring and they actually had like a 30% improvement in conversion rate. So that's very meaningful and powerful. So what it allows you to do is basically, based on the content and data that's in Salesforce, be able to score a lead so that you're kind of working on the right leads in accordance to what's important. The second thing is, and I think this fits into your industry specifically, is it's basically discovery. So we have the ability to do different kinds of data discovery on different kinds of data. So you can actually pull this data together and do different what-if analysis and what-if scenarios. So let me just go to recap real quickly. Let me just pause there and see what additional questions you have. Okay, you don't have any questions? Right, so let me just go back. I just want to wrap with what I think is really, really important. So you walk away with the real key components of what Salesforce is all about. The first one is trust. That's our number one value at Salesforce. So the platform that we're talking about being able to deliver to the marketplace, trust is number one, and it's a very important component. That leads to having a very secure environment, that it becomes, a very trusted environment is secure so that you have the ability to put private data in there, so which means it allows you to be compliant, right? So now if I have something, for instance, GDPR in Europe, I know we were messing around here with Department of Labor, fiduciary rule in your business. We have a lot of controls built into the system that allows you to maintain and handle compliance along the way. The other thing too is it's extendable. We talked a little bit about having deal support requests or onboarding, etc. So I have an extendable environment, and then more importantly, scalable. Right? I mean, at the end of the day, our goal is for you to be wildly successful in the marketplace, so you can continue to grow. So having the ability, for instance, to continue to expand on your DSRs, have more than one service that you could be able to deliver through a mobile, etc. And the last one, really important, I think we've talked about this a bunch, and it's certainly in today's environment, is it's mobile first. So this becomes a very key component. So I know I went through some of these things rather quickly. I can go deeper technically, but I think what I wanted to do is give you an overview at a high level from a business perspective and the outcomes perspective. Once again, it's all about being A, customer-centric, and B, being effective and being able to drive, results in the marketplace for you to either go top-line revenue or to actually just be in a position to also reduce costs while doing that. Thank you.